And we are live. Hey, Biz.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's been a little bit of a funky week.
All right. Well, I'm gonna gather everybody into our
Yeah.
broadcast here, and then we're gonna catch up with each other when I'm all done with my public service announcement.
Yes.
So, welcome to There's No Crying in Crochet. It's the podcast where we help you overcome your everyday crochet frustrations, and we chat
Mhm.
about true crime. Although
Yes.
today we're not talking about true crime, but it's going to be a lot of
Veering off
fun.
the path a little bit.
I know. Remember, we want you to click like and subscribe on either one of our YouTube channels to get notifications because we go live every week on Friday
Mhm.
afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight and
Mhm.
Central Daylight
1
Time,
p.m.
1 p.m. Got it.
Because even though I'm in
Um,
Florida, I'm in the central time zone.
I know it's just so confusing to me, Biz, but we're just going to move on from that. Um, we um, we also have descriptions in our YouTube when it goes live on our YouTube channels, and we've got
Mhm.
links and all kinds of fun stuff there for you to
Mhm.
partake in. You can also join our Facebook groups, Busy
Mhm.
Crochet and Madam Stitch Crochet.
Yep.
Um, Now, we wanna make sure we already said that. We wanna make sure that you, give StreamYard permission to display your name because if you're watching on Facebook, we look at the comments, it says Facebook user, and that's just a
Mhm.
little too anonymous for us to have fun.
Mhm.
So, if you are watching on Facebook, make sure that you give StreamYard permission to display your name. We promise it's completely safe. No
Mhm.
personal information is used at all. We won't come find you and track you down, blah, blah, blah. So
We
just
will
make sure
stalk
that you
you.
give us permission because we really like to see who we're talking to. All right.
Yes.
All right, Biz. It's time for you to tell me how your week went. What is
Okay.
up?
So just this week, we were talking before we started, you and I, about how our week went, and I have lost my Crojo, people. It has just been placed to the side for the moment. I don't know where it went. I tried the same project twice because if you watched last week's episode, you know that we were talking about using cording for helping with stretch in some of your crochet projects. And so I thought, I really, really need to get that bag designed that I had in my brain. And so I sat down 2 attempts and I hated both of them. So I realized, you know what? I think I just need to set my hook down for a little bit. I know it'll come back. It always does. But I'm currently knitting a sock.
At least you're crafting. This is a good thing, right?
It's just where it's at. And how was your week, Deb?
Well, it's super busy. So this is the next to last week for the grandkids to be in school. And while you may think, well, they're your grandkids, why does that affect you? Well, as it turns out, ever since the kids were born, because they live close and both my son and his wife work full time, I have been 1 or 2 days a week. I'll pick them up from school, feed them, keep them alive, that sort of thing. But now they're 13 and 10, almost 11. I know, right? So they don't need quite as much grandma oversight.
Sure.
But on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I still pick them up and swim team, baseball practice, baseball games, marching band, and don't you know they all fall on Tuesday and Thursday. So I've been running them around all over the valley to get their things to their things, but that's about to end. I think next
Mhm.
week. Oh, swim team is done, marching band is done, baseball will be done. What? I have free time. So that will help.
Stop
But
it.
this week, I know, right? This week, I actually had a ton of fun swatching. Now, I hate swatching. I hate it. I want to
Oh,
just,
you.
here's the idea, it goes on my hook and yarn, and we just go. But this week, I've been playing with stitch patterns because I'm determined to use granny stitch in all of my new stitch combinations. So lace
Yeah.
and combining it with other stitches. So it's not just plain granny stitch or granny square, that I'm mixing it up.
Yeah.
And I don't have the swatch here in front of me, but I came up with a swatch for a sweater. I've never done a sweater. Oh my
Oh, I'm
gosh.
so
So
jealous.
Ah, now it's not a fitted sweater, but it will be something that I will be happily wearing in the fall. So
Oh,
I'm
nice.
getting it swatched out. So and lots of tech editing this week because apparently lots of people are getting their stuff ready to go. So that's what I've been
Tis the
doing this week.
season.
'Tis the season.
Tis the season.
All right, Miss Biz, are you ready to get into our episode?
I
To what we're here
am.
for? All
I
right.
for some reason. Okay.
Today, episode 4, how to stay motivated to finish that big crochet project. All right, we've all been there, Biz, right? We've all been in that
Yes.
place where
Often.
we start that blanket or we start that sweater or we start that cardigan, we start that big project and we're
Mhm.
just raring to go, so excited to get it finished. And then we hit that spot where, I don't feel it anymore, but you're not
Mhm.
finished. So how
Mhm.
do you stay engaged? How do you not put that project down so that in 5 years you find it and go, "Wait, what was that again?" And that's a lot of yarn, right? The the work in progress pile that just keeps on giving, right?
Just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yes.
Exactly. Right, so
I'm
Biz and
gonna
I
be
were
honest.
talking about
Oh,
what I'm
I'm sorry,
sorry?
go ahead. I was just gonna
Biz
say
and I
I
were
was in my
talking about
closet. I'm gonna turn you up because I can hardly hear you, and I keep talking over you. I
it's all right.
apologize.
But you finish your thought, darling.
I was just gonna say I was just in my closet the other day and I thought, "There's this really bulky bag in there. What is that?" So I pulled it
You
out.
didn't.
It's a blanket. I'm not kidding. I started it 3 years ago.
See, now,
Completely
Biz,
forgot
I
about
was
it.
just throwing that out there. I didn't realize you were gonna be the one we were talking to, right?
Oh, no. I mean, I have a whole room of that. So
Well, anyway, we were talking about how this was the squirrel syndrome. You see that
mhm,
shiny new object. We'll talk about that
mhm,
more later when we get to our movie of the week. But
mhm.
we're going to give you some tips to stay motivated so that doesn't end up in Biz's closet. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
I'm running out
So
of
I'm going to
space.
get, well, same here. We're not going to look at my room behind me. So the first point we want to make is have a couple of smaller projects handy to give your mind a break and make the project feel fresh again when you pick it up. So, one of the things that we have trouble with is that it's the same thing over and over and over again for a long time. That's if you're
Mhm,
making like a blanket, or
mhm,
it's a complicated project that has multiple sections and multiple
mhm,
stitch patterns, and your brain just gets fogged.
mhm,
So I always have at least, it drives you crazy if I don't have this many projects, at least 3, if
mhm,
not 5 projects going at the same time. Now,
mhm,
that seems like it would be a waste of time, but it's really not, because I
mhm,
go, "Oh, I just don't feel like working on that today. I'm going to work on this one over here." And I
mhm,
make progress on multiple projects at
mhm,
once, and that big project feels new and fresh every time I pick it up.
mhm. Yes, I completely agree with that. I do the same thing. I've noticed that there are people who are really, really, I want to say particular or more organized than me, and they're like, I have this really small one over here, I have this larger one over here, and then I have this intense one that takes my brain. Like I've got to really think about it, and I'm like, gosh, I just have like piles and piles and piles, and you know what I mean. And each one I know what it
Yeah,
is. It's my organized chaos and, I just like, "Oh, do I wanna work on that one, or do I wanna work on that one, or do I wanna work on that
mhm,
one?" And I do the
that's how
exact
I
same
feel.
thing.
Because this is
So
why I love you. I live and work and breathe in organized chaos. Everything
yes.
looks like it's a giant mess, but every time I cleaned it up and organized, I can't find a thing. So,
No, no.
nope, I'm right there
Exactly,
with you.
because Like last week, I lost my cord. And I had to
That's
pull
right.
something from
I
it.
forgot.
Like, I put it away. And you know what? I found it yesterday in a
That's
bag.
good.
It
Well,
was where
there's hope for us, right?
it was where it was supposed to be. Oh, well.
Oh my goodness. All right, Biz, do you
Yes.
have a tip for our viewers?
I do. I would say also are we just going down the list from top to
Yeah,
bottom?
let's just go down the list. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Allow yourself a grace period. Put your project in a timeout chair and be sure that you note where you stopped so that when you pick it up, you don't lose your place.
Yep.
I
Yeah, I think
have, yes, I have often put, especially when I'm designing large projects, and I have a tendency to do Christmas blankets with a theme. And so every time that I do a new section on the blanket, it has a new theme, which means a new stitch, which means, just because my brain has to keep going like that. And there are times when I'm like, I want this particular stitch for this particular theme. But when I sit down to actually work on it, it is not working. It is not doing what it's supposed to do. So you just have to go sit over there so I don't rip the whole thing out or set you on fire. It has to have a naughty timeout. And then when I'm ready to pick it up again, I can deal with it. And it's the same thing with a really large project that's maybe overwhelming you in certain spots. Because
mhm,
you had mentioned, projects that have a lot of stitch changes or a lot of number
mhm,
changes and things like that. Sometimes we hit a stitch that has multi-stitch projects in it, and it's not your favorite stitch, and it overwhelms you when
mhm.
you know it's coming up. So sometimes you
Yeah.
just need to set it aside and give it a breather.
Yep, I agree. All right. Next tip. And I'm notorious for not doing this because I
Mhm.
have the table beside my recliner that
Uh-huh.
has all the things on it, and it's just a
Yep.
giant mess. Um, but have all of the materials for that project, including the yarn, the hook, the pattern, the whole shebang,
Mhm.
in one spot or
Mhm.
one bag.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I carry stuff around with me so much that I end up
Mhm.
leaving one part of it here and one part of it there,
Mm.
and putting it down wherever I happen to be. Being a little bit organized outside of our organized chaos might be a good
Uh-huh.
thing in staying motivated with that project, so we're not constantly trying to find our stuff.
Absolutely, and sometimes that's gonna require you to have more than one of the same size hook or needle,
Mhm,
whichever you're using.
and I do,
I need to get
and
some
I
more
do.
because I have 2 favorite ones, and I have one in my office and one in the living room, and if something happens to either one of those, it's panic mode because I only have 2 of my 2 favorites. So, I have
So
to I
I
have to buy some more.
I see a shopping trip in your future.
Yes. Very handy then,
Yay!
yes. Buying hooks. Nobody wants to go shopping ever, right?
Well, okay, it depends upon what it is. I'm sorry. If it's for yarn or crochet hooks, count me in. If it's
Mhm.
for something else, like, oh, I hate shopping for clothing. I hate shopping for
Mm.
clothing.
So do I.
And grocery shopping is a necessary evil because we
Mhm.
need to eat. So
Mhm.
that's how that goes.
Absolutely agree with both of those. Alrighty. So next on our list would be breaking the project down into smaller chunks and putting it aside when you complete a chunk.
Mhm.
And we have a side note on here, and if you'll suffer brain fog or fatigue if you work on it for too long. So a way to avoid the overwhelm is just to break it down into smaller chunks.
Yeah. I'm working on a blanket right now for one of my sons, and it's a very simple design, so I don't have to look at the pattern. But
Mhm.
after a while, it just starts to get tedious. So I try to give
Mhm.
myself, okay, I'm going to get this many rows done before I stop. And then that means that I've
Yeah.
got a fair chunk of it done. and I feel like I've accomplished something.
Yes. Yoki says, I hate shopping for clothes, but love shopping for yarn. For whatever reason, the comments from YouTube don't allow us to share it on StreamYard. Unless you have the share thing on your side, I don't have that.
I can show it. You ready? There it
Okay,
is.
so
So it's
yeah,
just
so,
it's because I'm the blessed host this week. I get to
you got all the
share.
controls on the hosting
I get
side,
to
right?
see. Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm going to take that away so we can see that. Yeah, I hate shopping for clothing. So there's
Absolutely.
that.
Yes. That's another one
All
of
right.
those necessary evils, though, because wouldn't everybody be shocked if we didn't?
Let's not address that in this episode, please.
That's a different show.
Really not. Yeah, and we might not want to go there ever. So
No.
did you want to say anything more about breaking that project down into chunks?
Breaking a project down into chunks. No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Just, you know, you hit a spot and you move on until the next time that you sit down to work on it.
All right, now the last point that we have to make, the last tip that we have is actually one that you came up with, Biz. This is block off specific times of the day to work on the large project. So explain what you meant by that particular tip.
I've found for myself that if I work only on work, I become very tired, and I have to have happy work too. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So I will, depending on what it is, and if I can fit it in my office and do it comfortably here, I will do my work crocheting in my office, and I leave it here on my office table. And then in the evenings, I will find a fun project to work on so that I can actually touch both in the same day. It helps me just kind of keep motivated and keep going. And the last project that I did recently, I still haven't put the pattern out, it's coming, but it's a little toy hut for fantasy characters. And I found that when I was in the office and I'm like, okay, today I'm going to make the base for it. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to make the walls for it. It just worked really well because I time blocked and I said, this is the time frame in which I'm going to work on this project. And then I moved on to something else. Because sometimes when we're in these large projects, we think I have to stay here and I have to work on it and this is all I can do. But, like we said in a couple of our other points, breaking it down into smaller chunks, taking time. I'm going to actually look back because I can't remember any of them. Having smaller projects around, that's that happy place project that I do when I'm sitting in front of the TV. Because I don't necessarily want to have to do designing and math and all of that stuff when I'm trying to enjoy family time.
No, I agree. Now, I don't necessarily set aside specific times of the day for specific projects, and my work crochet is actually my fun crochet most of the time. So you do a lot of amigurumi, so there is a lot of math and figuring out those kinds of things. I tend to have projects that establish a row or two, and then you just keep repeating that. So for me, a lot of my work crochet is mindless crochet, but I do set aside specific times of the day to work on this stuff. I start every day with crochet, and I have a routine in the morning, and I end every day with crochet with a specific routine, and it just helps me to get started and put a period on the day, that sort of thing.
So you kind of time block too, just in a slightly different way from me.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Like you have, and it kind of is a routine. It helps you establish spaces in your day where you make sure that you get to touch all of the things that you need to touch.
Yep. Our Facebook user says, I love the time blocking concept. Yeah, it's absolutely critical for me. Yeah. And like you said, yours is slightly different. I have other friends and colleagues who do work crochets over here, fun crochets over here. But I tend to is crochet to me for the most
Yeah.
part. So whatever it happens to be, as long as I don't have to sit there, the one thing I don't like to do is during my fun crochet time, have to take notes on what I'm working on because I'm working on a design and I don't want to forget something. I have a fun story, Biz. You're gonna love this story.
Yes.
So
Tell
I'm
us.
I'm doing a collaborative project with some other designers, where we're all getting together to make a blanket. And my
Mhm.
portion, I figured out the stitch pattern. I'm almost done with my strip, and it's due in 5 days, the final copy stuff, right? So I couldn't sleep the other night, so I decided to get up and see if I could finish the swatch.
Uh-huh.
Don't you know, I had failed to write down anything about the pattern. And so here I am after my bedtime, getting out my notes app on my phone going, "Oh my god, what did I do? Oh my gosh, this is terrible." And I had to rip out a row or 2 to figure out what I had done. It's all good
I've
now.
totally done that.
I'm all good now. But you know the fear that you just get to a point where, "Okay, I thought I wrote all that stuff down, but
Yes.
why? Why?"
Yes. Well, because
And
you were
so my
zipping
motive
along and you were like,
Oh,
"Hey,
yeah.
is this gonna work?" And you're like, "Oh, yeah, it's working." And so you just kept going.
Yeah, and I even sent a picture of the swatch to the people who were running it. "Oh, yeah, that's great." And I'm thinking, "If I can't figure out how to do this, I have to
Oh,
start
no.
over, and they're gonna." But anyway, that's why
I'm
I like to take
confident in
notes.
myself. I know I can do this again.
Yeah, no. No,
There are
not
so
even the
many times
simple
you have to
stuff.
talk yourself up.
Oh, goodness.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
well, that unless you've got other tips, I mean, unless our viewers have tips, that would be awesome if we
Yeah, I
got a
mean, if
couple of
anybody
tips
has
from our
anything to add
viewers.
to it.
Knock yourselves out. We would love to hear from you about what you do to stay
Mhm.
motivated with a big project. Um, all right, so I'm gonna move us on since we don't have any comments to look at right now. I'm gonna move us on to our TV slash movie of the week. So
Yes.
as we were getting ready talking about this week's episode, it occurred to both of us that this is kind of squirrel syndrome. And we all know that, a dog is just happily going along. They see a squirrel and they go, "Squirrel." And immediately I thought of the movie Up. All right,
Yes.
so raise your hand. How many of you have seen the movie Up and absolutely adore it?
Adore
Yes,
it.
it's
It's
one
one
of
of
my
my favorite
faves.
ones.
One of my faves. So we rewatched it this week to just look at Doug and all of he's the
I love
dog
him
that
so
befriends.
much.
I know, he's so funny. And then the 3 dogs of the bad guy, Professor Muntz.
Uh-huh.
Um,
There's alpha, beta, gamma, and omega in the little bad guy puppy group.
yeah, and they are defeated in the end. Do you remember this, Biz? They are defeated
Mhm.
in the end
Yes.
because Russell yells "squirrel" and they crash their planes into each other. Yes! It was awesome. Good wins out over evil every time, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yes, when we were talking about that, the whole Doug squirrel syndrome, and have you ever seen the oh gosh, what is it called? I know I'm going to say it wrong, but the story of Nim, The Secret of Nim. Have you ever seen that movie? It's
Oh,
from the
I
80s
don't
when it came out. I think it was a Don
I
Bluth film.
probably have, but I honestly don't remember it off the top of my head.
Okay, so there is a crow in there, and his name is Jeremy. And he is constantly going out and anything shiny, he's got to stop and pick it up because apparently this is actually a trait of crows where anything that has sparkle or shine or metallic or whatever catches their interest, they have to pick it up and they want to put it in their nest. So that also makes me think of us when we're going through and we're working on large projects and we happen to see somebody working on a different project and it's like,
Yep,
oh, it's a shiny. I got to pick up the shiny. I got to do this shiny, and we get
I
so
want it.
distracted. Yes. We gotta feather our
Yep.
nest with all of these patterns. So
Well, I've feathered my entire craft room with it, so this is, with with all the shiny yarn and all the shiny projects and, oh,
absolutely.
goodness.
It's a sparkly.
And I don't even like sparkly yarn. Just
It has its purposes. I'm not usually a big fan of it, but it has its place. It works really well when you're
Yes.
doing a Christmas afghan.
Oh, yes, good.
Mhm. So, yeah, I mean, it has its place, but I'm not a big fan of it in garments because it's so itchy. It's almost
It's
stiff.
hard to work with. Yeah, it's hard to
Mhm.
work with.
Yep,
Well,
I
I have
feel
to
like
go
you can
back to the movie.
humiliate yourself.
I have to go back to the movie Up for a moment because my daughter has
Yes.
made me promise that I will share the part of the movie that every time it happens, I just drop on the floor guffawing. So I don't know if you remember a scene where Russell has been tied up and Carl has put him back into the house to save him,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
Carl is having a confrontation in the dirigible with the bad guy.
Yeah.
And the bad guy's trying to figure out how to find Carl and get the house. So all of a sudden you see Russell hit the window. He's hanging from the hose, hits the window, and he slides. His face is plastered in the way. He just slides across the window. And it keeps going back to the bad guy whose eyes are all you see is his eyes are just moving, watching Russell go across the window. It's animated for crying out loud, and I just lose my cookies every time. It's just the
The movie is
craziest thing.
so hilarious. Okay, so my dad does not he's 75 now, but I think this is good 10, 15 years ago, so he was just, in his early 60s. And he sat down. It was one of those things where all the grandkids wanted to watch Up because it was new. So we all sat down, and in the first 10 minutes, it's this love story. And
Mhm.
so his comment was, I hope it gets better than this. Because he's like, this is so depressing. And he's one of those
Oh.
really crusty, gruff old men who I'm not emotional kind of thing. But he was like, this has gotta get different, you know?
Oh my
So
gosh, that's
because it's
hilarious,
so
that's
heart-wrenching.
hilarious.
But that is one of the best Disney movies, Pixar movies out there.
Oh,
It just
absolutely. The story, the
Oh my
characters,
gosh,
it's
yes.
just ridiculous. I can
And
watch that
Russell's
over
so
and over
cute.
again.
Yes.
Yeah.
I even have They have a Scentsy warmer that my friend happened to know that I really love the movie Up, and she sent that to me, and it's one of my prized possessions. I absolutely love it. It's so cute. It's got Kevin on
Oh
there.
my gosh.
Kevin's the best.
Oh,
I mean,
nice, nice.
how many of us are Kevins? Little dopey. Then, there's Doug who's sweet but confused.
Yeah, he's
You
just
can
kind
just
of out there, but you know what? He's the one of the heroes of the story.
absolutely.
One yeah,
Well, and that's
and
oh, it's just one of those really
I
good
just
movies.
yeah, I just love a happy ending
Me too.
when good wins out over evil. It's just phenomenal.
Mhm. And,
Oh,
and the Carl character, he has a redemption as well, able to move on
mhm.
and celebrate Ellie and all of that and not be heartbroken. It's hard watching people get old.
Yeah, it is, and it's hard. Well, I have contended that I'm not gonna grow old gracefully. I'm gonna go down kicking and screaming. So,
You know?
there's how
My dad always said that growing old is not for the weak. So
no.
you gotta be a little cantankerous. You just do.
Well,
So there has to be
I
a
hope
little bit
I'm
of
not
crust on you by the time you're done, right?
I hope I'm not too crusty. So,
Well, what we'll do is we will just make you a sweater out of sparkle yarn and just exfoliate that off, right?
go.
So
Oh, okay. I'm done. Done. No. Oh my goodness, darling. I
I
think
will
we have
behave.
solved all of the problems of the world when it comes to working on those
Absolutely.
larger projects, and we've ended on such a sweet note this week. So that means next week we have to return to our true crime. Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but we'll figure it out and let
I
you
will
know.
let you know. Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Absolutely.
Biz, do you have anything to add before I clock us out?
Nope, just be blessed. Everybody have a great week.
Yeah, same here. And thanks for joining us.
Mhm.
Again, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know when we're back with our next episode of
Mhm.
There's No Crying in
There is no
Crochet.
crochet. Yes.
See you next week, Biz. Oh, wait,
See you
there.
later.
See you next week.
I know. Which way is which?
I'm so confused. All right, see you, Biz.
Okay. Have a good week.